Hey everyone, welcome to the Clips channel. Did you know this isn't our main channel? Yeah, you should subscribe over and find our main videos and our streams as well. We also have a podcast that you can find wherever podcasts can be found, so explore the internet. See you there.
Did you see? I'm just remembering this. This is not in the doc because I completely forgot. I think it was like 2 days after our charity stream. They put out a video of raiding in the Final Fantasy XIV mobile game that's upcoming.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
okay.
And it looks like real-time ass combat. You're just moving around, dodging shit.
I mean, that
playing normal
like,
ass
yeah.
Final Fantasy XIV. Because the last combat thing they put out, it looked like it was not turn-based, but like you're pseudo locked in on a single target. But then they put this thing out, and it's like, this is just Crystal Tower ass Crystal Tower. I no longer know what's going on with it. I'm super confused. We missed an entire wave of the 14 glam system is better than the actual in the mobile game is better than the actual real game, and we missed the whole drama cycle of that. And now we
sure.
Yeah. Which, all right, sweet. So it sounds like we're moving on from the Steam Deck, which means I'm going to let you choose your own adventure here, Kyle.
Okay.
Speaking of the drama cycle, we can talk about either how Final Fantasy XIV is totally 100% dying, or I would like to talk to you about Atlas games because I have now experienced an Atlas game.
Well, we did just touch on it. We might as well do the Final Fantasy XIV thing. Like that sounds healthy.
All right. Well, let's talk about it because in the last like 24 hours or so, I believe this is because it was a top voted article linked on the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit and then got picked up by a bunch of content creators on Twitter and Blue Sky and retweeted. There's an article talking about how 14 is about to drop below 1 million active players. Heavy quotations on that active, by the way.
Okay.
Because it's there's a lot of you're having to come up with a way to decide even what is an active player.
Oh yes.
To even start to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, chat's already saying it. The Lucky Boncho Census, which this is a website I have never heard of, and now because of frantic mathing 40 minutes before we went live today, I am now deeply aware of this website's existence. So a lot of retweets about how basically to catch you up, everybody. If you want the I missed the drama. Why are people talking? Why is there discourse? My TLDR on it is that the short article got written over on a website called thegamer.com by, I've got a name down here, Joshua Robertson. Not super familiar with this website or this author, so I apologize. But yeah, that went out, and then people who are within the 14 space started retweeting it and with hot takes about what's wrong with the game and why it's about to drop below 1 million active players.
Of course.
I'm more interested in where are these numbers coming from? What do you consider an active player?
What the hell is the census?
How does it match up to previous expansions?
Yeah, how about that?
Maybe answer those questions before we all just start summoning a black mage meteor and burning this game to the ground. Because my brain goes to, listen, this is my only time being current, but I would imagine right now, when I'm assuming most of us have burned through the new content of the 0.1 patch, is probably when these conversations tend to happen. I feel like, Kyle, I seem to remember Endwalker Doom saying around the same time when I was still catching up.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Telling me that people on a website who currently aren't playing the video game are talking about numbers that support their personal claims and being backed by people who might be live streaming, not playing the video game.
Yes.
Because having a conversation like that is too intense to be playing the video game at the same time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is from a website called Lucky Boncho. I believe it's a Japanese website. We can only read it through the aid of translations. Luckily, numbers don't really need translating. It's pretty easy to kind of pick it out, but translates pretty well. And I guess they scour the lodestone for somewhat monthly censuses, what they call a census, and then they like break it down into how many active players and then how many active players for the current expansion. But usually the bigger number is just overall active players, which depending on what point in 14's life it is, they have different criteria for that. Like during Endwalker, it seems like they considered an active player someone with a maximum level of 60 or higher.
Okay.
Appears to be what they consider an active player. So you can go to the website and they have a pretty great archive. So it's fairly easy to jump around and see their censuses from previous points in the game's history. The biggest wrinkle I see is that they don't do it like every month, and they don't seem to do these censuses on any particular date consistently. So what I did is I went back and I pulled numbers for 5.0, 5.1, 5.2, 6.0, 6.1, and 6.2. As close as I could get to it, because most of them were like right before a patch or an expansion dropped. And then the next one wasn't for like 2 months later, and the number was like a lot lower. And I felt like that was a bad indication of how many people were playing at the drop of an expansion or the drop of a patch. So I need to find a place, by the way, to link all of this.
All your research.
We don't usually bother with like linking our show notes. I think I'm going to make an exception this one time. And by the way, I probably should have told you just before the show, if you want to like show this section of the show notes, freaking go for it. It would probably be helpful.
All right, let me get a little.
It would probably, yeah. Oh, tell me you have dark mode.
It's their show notes.
Oh, okay. All right. I just for everyone that's going to comment below.
Well, tell me how to turn it on, champion.
Well, it's an add-on for Chrome if you don't already have it. We abandoned all.
Well, here I'll make us bigger, and by virtue of the size of us.
Make me bigger, Daddy.
There you go.
Yeah. While I'm backseating you, clean that crop up. Clean that crop up.
Couldn't even stream on Monday. How dare you backseat me?
Wait, what? What are you saying?
You couldn't get your stream working correctly on Monday, and you're backseating my streaming.
That was 2 weeks ago.
I know, and this is today. I just thought you'd have more respect for me needing to set things up during a stream, but I realized that was a false hope. Okay, all right, all right. Hit me with these numbers. Let's roll.
Hit me with your best shot. Okay, all right. So I've already explained that. Take this with a grain of salt. I am comparing this website's own numbers to this website's own numbers. So like none of this is official statistics from Square Enix or CS3. This is from this one website by their own criteria. So I'm comparing their own criteria to their own criteria. So because this article that everybody's sharing, the big points that come out of it, other than opinion, are that 1.4 million players were active at the release of Dawn Trail. And now we're down to 1.1 million being active at the release of 7.1, and it's gone down a little bit more since. That's the inciting factoids of the article. And then they go on to say in a direct quote, in comparison, Shadowbringers and Endwalker had 942,000 and 1.3 million players. That's for each expansion upon each expansion's launch. Then rose to 1.2 and 1.7 million respectively for 5.1 and 6.1. So that's an increase. I'm like, okay, but I wanted to go deeper, and I want to know, like, I went and verified. So they're pretty much right on the money with what they're saying for 5.0 and 6.0. But I was also just kind of more curious about the drop off from 1 to 2, which is not a direct comparison. But considering we're going from the high point of the game when folks outside of that were already, when the game got on the radar of folks that weren't already bought in, and also the narrative end of the game, I feel like we should probably look at the drop off from 1 to 2 more than the gain from 0 to 1. Because Endwalker was like this massive euphoric end of everything. And Dawn Trail's a new start.
Okay.
So that's what I was curious about.
And what did you find?
Well, Kyle. From 5.1, there was a loss. From 5.1 to 5.2, there's a loss of roughly 140,000 active players by what this website considers active players. And then from 6.1 to 6.2, there's a loss of 390,000 active players. So Endwalker had if we're going to doomsay, we should have doomsayed back in 6.1 and 6.2.
Well, they probably did at the time.
I believe some people were. I believe some people were, in fact, doomsaying. But if we're going to laser focus on a loss of players, Endwalker had a slightly larger loss from 6.1 to 6.2. So Endwalker, everybody's favorite expansion, was worse. If that's how we're taking these.
Okay, all right. So
these numbers.
So the big news is that Endwalker was worse than Dawn Trail, and Dawn Trail is healthier.
What I'm here to tell you is that Dawn Trail is actually a success compared to Endwalker.
Wow.
Yeah. What I'm really here to tell you is that none of this surprises me, and I think it's perfectly fine.
I'm looking at this Reddit thread, which has such things as data travel was a mistake as one of the top rated comments in regards to why they feel the game is dying. But as a seasoned dead game coverer, and of course I'm talking about the slow decline of StarCraft from its heyday of we need to make a documentary about this right now and get this in the Olympics to who the hell cares.
We started making content together with StarCraft 2, which went through a dead game phase once, if not twice, in between every single expansion. Such a prolonged dead game phase during the wait from Heart of the Swarm to Legacy of the Void that we stopped covering it and never went back, even though it came out with a second expansion that was actually pretty damn good with Legacy of the Void. We also covered Heroes of the Storm together, which we continued covering for almost 3 years after the cancellation of its esports, which is when most people thought it was a dead game, but it continued having more frequent updates after the cancellation of its esports than it did before it.
Better updates too.
Yeah. And I've also spent a large portion of my life covering Hearthstone, which, still alive, getting plenty of updates, but holy shit, do you want to talk about a game that's gone through the dead game cycle over and over and over again? So yeah, there's our dead game resume, Kyle.
Yeah, this is really weird. So I'm not sure you might know this, people of the internet, but you can take data and make it look however the hell you want. And when we were covering Heroes of the Storm, we owned a website called Hot Slugs, and we were able to compare it to another website we didn't own called Heroes Profile and use that data to predict the meta of the MOBA video game from Blizzard, Heroes of the Storm. And I could do anything I wanted with those statistics. And I could sit down and weave any story. If I wanted Morales to be top meta discussion of the week, I could do that by adding in a couple of, actuallys. If I set this only to bronze through silver, let's talk about Morales, everybody. I could make content out of that. And I was very proud of that. I had a lot of fun doing that too. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I was not being a troll. I really enjoyed making that kind of content because it was fun. It was fun to discuss where Lily was best in Gold League on the certain map. But this sounds like some cherry picking of weird data. And
at a very base level, it's fair. Like to say, if based on these numbers, yeah, you can say it's the first expansion that didn't grow from 0.0 to 0.1 since Shadowbringers. You can say that. And if you remember, when we were at Media Tour, during the presentation that we weren't allowed to record or do much with, one of the first slides was look at our continued growth. We're the only MMO that has grown this much consistently for this long of a period of time. So I have a feeling, even though these are not official numbers, that will not be a slide that we see at the next Media Tour.
Interesting.
So that's fair. Like based on these numbers, that's a sincere thing to say. But that's kind of it. So, because everything else is just kind of opinion at that point.
I mean, there's fascinating takes in this Reddit, like talking about how the content, the relic, should be out already, and that would have kept people playing. I mean, everyone's talking about what they individually would keep them playing, and I do think that's a interesting take on it. There's one here that says, never escaping that Warlords of Draenor, more like Warlords of Dawn Trail accusation. Wait, who said that? I mean, I could make the comparison too. Again, I could take these data points and I could say Warlords of Draenor did a graphic update and Dawn Trail did a graphic update. The devs were overtaxed and the story suffered because, like, we can do this.
They did the graphics update, so it didn't beat the
bird. And here's one that says, maybe dumbing everything down while simultaneously only creating hardcore content was a bad idea. That is a fascinating thought.
That doesn't make any sense.
But that has a range in it. Yeah, like that.
Those are not words. No, wait, what? You can't claim. You can't accuse them of dumbing shit down and then.
But what I'm saying is,
only making hard,
but that's a skill floor to skill ceiling. We just created a huge range to have a conversation in.
A fucking insane
That is a top tier comment. Think about how much we could talk about that.
God, I hope they're trolling.
No, they seem pretty serious. They made sure.
What is wrong with that person?
They put a tiny line. What's it called? The hypothesis? What's that thing called? Where wasn't. They spelled wasn't.
Tilde?
Yeah, with a tilde, right? No, not the Spanish thing, right? Is that what we're talking about? No, I'm talking about when you spell can't. You do a contraction.
An apostrophe?
Apostrophe, yes.
Okay.
They put an apostrophe and there wasn't, just so they knew how serious they were, so people would think that, they spell correctly.
I do try and use proper English when I type now. I've abandoned my AIM ways, but...
Depends on how casual I'm being.
I'm so that's I don't do you for YOU anymore. Like I don't do that. See you later. I ain't about that anymore. Yeah, I don't know. This is the kind of thing that I don't know. I find it just kind of odd and tiring because I don't see any new conversations coming out of this based on this information. It's like everyone is just continuing the same conversations they were having before, which is totally fair. And it's valid to critique the game. But I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of folks use this as like a new excuse to relitigate their criticisms of Dawn Trail and how they hope the game will change. And I don't know. I guess it would annoy me less if you didn't like attach that to a retweet of this. I'm just like this. Nothing here surprises me.
But they did write this in all capitals below that comment, so you know it's true. It's true. Doesn't surprise me. There isn't shit to do. This sounds like
that is true, and I think that's why we're having these conversations like so heavily right now because there isn't much to talk about. You've got trailers for the mobile game. Which I would make a pretty strong argument for nobody currently playing Final Fantasy XIV is the target audience for.
Likely true.
Don't know shit about when 7.2 is coming. We can make an educated guess, but that's it. We still haven't, there's no update on an official drop date for that. So yeah, it's the back end of a .x patch. Yeah. So what I'm really saying is you should just do what we do and play slower. Yeah, play slower. Or do what? How many players did they lose? They went from 1.4 to 1.1. Do what 300,000 other players are doing and go play The War Within.
Oh, is that what happened? That's the exact data point there. Is The War Within?
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about Atlas Games. Tell me about Atlas Games. Wow, I feel like that was an induction ceremony. I feel like I just entered a fraternity of welcome back to news that I've missed. I did not miss much. Excuse me.
Wait, what?
Oh, in terms of like drama, I did run a what did Kyle miss question in the Discord to see what all I missed, and I'm happy to say that I did not miss much while I was gone.